No one in this world can you trust. Not men, not women, not beasts. This you can trust.
Hello and welcome to another episode of the Glory of Golden State Gaming. I'm your host, Swamp Swimmer, and back on the channel, our good friend Henry. Welcome back, Henry.
How's it going, man?
Well, we just had to bring you back for part 3 of the Balance Patch 2023. You are fresh off of a Hawaiian vacation. Anything you want to drop to the viewers about being in Hawaii?
No, it was super nice kind of having a 9th age cleanse. But on the last day I was watching the other balance patch, the 0.2 on the beach, my phone out watching a video on what changed with the last book. So
you can't escape it. You can't escape it.
Yeah. And then right also off the back of NATC. So.
Yes, true. And we just finished up NATC in San Francisco. It was a ton of fun. We will have Vespasian's battle reports on the channel. Obviously, you're getting none from me because I ran the damn thing. But it was really a lot of fun. It turned out better than I thought it would.
Yep.
But we are not here to talk about the NATC. We are here to talk about part 3. I can't count. Part 3 of the Balance Patch 2023. Part 3 drop, and this is the last of the army books. There are how many of them? Well, 1, 2, 3, 7?
16 books.
7?
Right? And
yeah.
This is the last 7 because Empire got pushed back.
Empire got pushed back. Okay.
Yeah, to part 3 because it's in alphabetical order, and
gotcha.
Empire's here for some reason. So, that one kid we all knew in school, Empire got held back a year, but they're here now.
I got scared for a second because I'm like, oh, I have the Empire book. Am I supposed to be showing this? Okay. Yes. Part 3. Hell, let's just jump into it. I just randomly picked a book first, and it is Ogre Cons. So, as usual, I think we'll just scroll through the book. There's not a lot of changes in these first 2 army books, so we'll go through them pretty quick, but I'll just scroll through here. The points, the casting value changed on Children of Umi?
Yeah, Children of Umi went down. 2 off the boosted and 1 off the base, but that is because of a change that the shaman received.
We'll get there.
And that's and
that's
kind of the same with the Gut Roar as well, with the big names.
Gut Roar, +1 resilience. What was it before? Was there anything here before? It was just plus. It's just they added resilience on the top.
It was Channel and Fear before and cost like 40 points, and now it's +1 resilience and cost 85.
Yeah, we saw a fair amount of Gut Roars in list, right? We can safely assume that.
Yeah, because it's cheaper than Talisman of the Void. Or at least it used to be cheaper than Talisman of the Void.
Yeah, it used to be,
So picking up the Channel 1 is decent.
And the resilience is always good, so especially on Ogres. Yeah. So let's see here.
And then Rotten Jaw just got put in line with the rest of the main rulebook, where a thing that ignores something now just says immune.
Yep.
Rather than what it said before.
And then always, as always with special items, anytime you see a magical, anything at time it says magical attacks, that's crossed out. Actually, there's no examples in here, but
yeah, it's weird. I noticed that it might just be they forgot to add that part in.
Yeah, that's no big deal.
Or our patent pending Swamp Swimmer copy.
Yeah. I did not share this with anyone besides Henry as of like a day ago. So if it's out there, it's Henry's fault.
Yeah, contact my attorney.
Ritual Bloodletter. This is a big change here. Instead of getting a number of void tokens equal to the number of wounds you cause, you just get an extra channel.
Yeah, it's like Skull Fetish, I think it's called in the Orcs and Goblins book.
Mm-hmm.
Where if you're in combat, you just channel an additional one.
But this is just one, and in Skull Fetish is like the total number of units in combat, so that like you can really bump up the channel numbers. This is just channel 1.
Yeah,
like this took a big hit.
Yeah, but I mean, before it was kind of a weird magic weapon because it seemed really good, but you had to put it on your shaman.
Mm-hmm.
This just kind of seems like if your shaman's incidentally in combat, you can get a little bit more magic. I'm not sure it's worth it, but
yeah, it was it was a fun upgrade before, a fun weapon upgrade before, because like you could, if you wanted that combat shaman, you could drop that on him and like really get a kind of a big boost in the magic phase. But now it's just kind of like meh. If you want that extra channel, in theory,
I wonder if it's an incentive to take the tyrant more, because with how Ritual Bloodletter was before, you were almost incentivized to turn the shaman into a combat character.
Yeah.
Which the Ogre book has a combat character.
But in theory, now you could make one shaman, Ogre shaman, channel 4, right? Because you could give him Ritual Bloodletter, the new
Gut
Roar, and the Talisman of the Void. And
Talisman of the Void.
Yeah, in theory.
Yeah.
Liger's Tongue took a big old hit.
Yeah, this item pretty much got kneecapped.
Yeah.
Though I think it was probably the most unique gotcha item in the game when it was -1 attack value.
Yeah, that's true.
Because the amount of times you'd look at a combat with an Ogre unit and you're like, oh no, I think this combat goes correctly for me. And then there's just a shaman in there who's -1 to wound, toughness 5 with a 4-up. That's going to take 50% of your fighting power away. Was pretty nuts.
Now it's just -2 offense. I mean...
Yeah, I wouldn't... -2 offense is really close to being distracting, and I kind of wish it was just distracting. But I think this combos with the Frost Mammoth and the Yeti fur.
Yeah,
right?
Yeah.
So I could see ways you'd still take this item, but it's not one of the best items in the game anymore, for sure.
Yeah, completely agreed. Let's moving on here. Moving on. We're scrolling. Shaman went to Resilience 4 instead of 5.
But he got cheaper, and I think this is the push that we saw at the beginning of the year to see apprentices get cheaper.
Mm-hmm.
But when you have a 4 wound, toughness 5 apprentice, they could only get so cheap, right?
Yeah, it makes sense. It makes sense, but they kind of just kneecapped the combat shaman in this list.
Well, no. So Gut Roar is +1 toughness now, right? So all they did was move your points around. They played a little shell game with your points.
Yeah. Okay.
So you can still get to toughness 5. You just have to jump through an additional hoop.
Yeah, and then you have to expel your big name as Gut Roar. It's like, yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know.
The Mammoth Hunter just picked up exclusive because that's what the rule's called now.
Yep. I don't think there's many changes left here. Paired weapons are free for tribesmen, but they were before.
Scraplings lost their special champion, which is in line with the Infernal Dwarf book that lost their special champion.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean,
the Saber-Tooth Tigers now have supporting attack 2, so that you remember you used to see every once in a while the hunter in the Saber-Tooth Tiger unit. That's a little more viable now.
I'm not super familiar with the Ogre book. I've dabbled, but I thought the hunter made them core. I didn't realize they could always be core.
Yeah, they always could be core, but now it's down to 5 guys instead of 8.
Okay. That's pretty cool. Like, what's that? 205 points for 5 just to come out of core as kind of just a fast, zippy thing to jump in the way, and it's insignificant.
Yeah, this is definitely like
Yeah, that's not bad.
This is decent chaff and pretty good chaff clear. Also, you charge this into a piece of chaff, it'll kill it.
Yeah, and agility 4 is decent for 3 attacks, a piece, strength 4 out of your core chaff unit.
Yep.
Let's don't hate that change.
Let's keep going here. Merc Vets either went up or down in price.
Yeah, so I broke this down a little earlier today. For the most part, Merc Vets went down in price, except for the Cowboys, the two gun poison.
The poison pistols.
Those guys went up. But like the combat Merc Vets, which are definitely like, I think more the intended version of what the Merc Vet should be, but not the one you saw. They've gone down about 3 points a dude overall.
It's interesting. Interesting.
So that's pretty cool.
I mean,
because I like seeing the combat Merc Vets, but
yeah,
when it's just 100-point dudes with guns that just stand really far away from you, it doesn't seem like the feel of what the unit's supposed to be.
Yeah, I agree. Let's see here. Moving on. Thunder Cannons went down in points, and they lost clipped wings.
Yep, and they lost clipped wings and gained Swift Stride.
They didn't have Swift Stride before? I thought they did because they were chariots. Huh?
No, because they're just a construct. So, like, the Infernal Dwarf train thing doesn't have Swift Stride either, I don't believe.
Oh, interesting. I didn't even know that.
But the Stratopole has Swift Stride, so maybe it always had Swift Stride, and for some reason that's just blue. I don't know.
Maybe,
I don't know the Ogre book well enough.
Neither do I. And we're keeping going here. There's not a whole lot of changes. Slave Giant, they reworded the musician thing to now it's called Deafening Clamor, so that's the same thing. And that's the Ogre
that's
book.
The big red book. Yep, it's pretty simple changes. For the most part, it feels close to nerfs, but I think it's more just redistributing the points. So you have the option to have cheaper shamans.
Yeah.
So while it might look like a nerf, I can speak today. On the surface, I think it might actually be a boon, just because you can have some cheaper adepts rolling around, especially with pyro changes now. The cheaper the wizard, the happier you are.
I agree. It's not too many changes, but also they kind of adjusted the saber-toothed tigers to make them a little more viable as a unit instead of just you always see the 2 single tigers running around. So that's kind of interesting.
Yep.
But let's move on to the biggest changes. I am sense the sarcasm in my voice to the Orcs and Goblins book, which I think had very, very little changes. I'm just scrolling through the pages here.
I believe it's like 2 points changes. No, it's no points changes, just like 2 little cost of life things, like immune is added to an item that was immune to lethal strike. And I think their mage now starts at base apprentice rather than like buying apprentice for free.
Yep.
Pretty much the Orcs and Goblins changes are watch this space. This will change shortly when the new book comes out. So
exactly,
this is a placeholder.
Yeah, it makes sense. It's a little sad to see because I really wanted to see. I'm excited to see the new book for ONG. So I was excited to see some changes, maybe some previews of the changes that are coming. Grotling's got extra supporting attacks 3, which is, I think they're going this way with all swarms. They're giving extra supporting attacks. Grotling's got that. So I was excited to see maybe a preview of what was coming in the LAB, but no, we didn't get it. But it's all right. The new book's coming out soon, so it's no big whoop.
Yeah, I think this is similar to last year with the KOE book, where they didn't really tilt their hand to show you what was coming down the pipe.
All right, so next up, what do you want to do? Throw out a list.
Let's just do Empire, because they're there and they should have been earlier.
Yeah, gotcha. Okay, so I'm starting from the top here. Not many changes. The supporting unit rules get to shoot an extra rank now. That was already in there. Never mind.
Yeah, it was just that rule's been added to the rule book now.
Yeah, yeah.
Rather than same with magic items have just been clarified and brought in line. Steady aim's now a universal rule.
Okay. So here's the first change I'm seeing. Exemplar's Flame. Before it was like discarding Veil tokens to give lethal strike and magical attacks. Now it's a bounce spell, Glory of Gold from Alchemy, 4/8. Still 40 points. Still 40 points.
It's weird because Exemplar's Flame was pretty good, but it could only be on your turn. The old one. Now it's just Glory of Gold as a bounce spell, which I'm not sure it's worth 40 points, but I think it's a lot cleaner change than this thing that could only happen on your turn and cost you a Veil token.
The only reason I can see this is coming into play is you could really force the alchemy flammable, because then you can make flammable attacks with the prayers and with this. So there's a lot of opportunity to make your attacks flammable. That's what I was thinking.
I think losing lethal strike is kind of rough.
Yeah, I agree.
Because especially with also losing Razor Standard, or the AP banner, or whatever it's called, not used to be called.
Rending
the main
banner.
rulebook. Rending. I've played a lot of editions of this game, and all the names are cluttered. So losing lethal strike is rough there. Yeah. I think you might see people go to spears over halberds because of it.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's okay. It's another quality of life cleanup change.
Let's see. The Marshal can have a repeater pistol now. That's interesting.
If you had told me before that he could have a repeater pistol, I would have believed you. So.
Let's see. I'm just scrolling through. No big changes. The Pegasus got hard target 1. You never really saw Pegasus characters, but
yeah, it's in line with the Eagle changes from the Elf books, right?
Yeah,
where all that mount style is now hard target 1.
So that goes along back to the Highborn Elf book. You know, they made these. They're trying to kind of do to dragons what they did to giants, and kind of like give each dragon kind of the same set of stats, but one extra cool rule in different armies. So in the dragon for the Empire, now the movement has been aligned to 714. They're always 714 now, but they get the special Meeting of the Minds rule that the dragon can give 2 orders like the Marshal character.
Yeah, so it says the model may give 2 orders instead of 1, so I assume if your general's on there, he can just give 2 orders. It's not he gives 1 and the dragon adds his opinion afterwards.
No, it's more like he gives the order and you're like, I don't know, General, and the dragon's like, no, you take that order and you do it.
Dragon's just gaslighting this general. He's like, no.
The question is the Marshal's the only character that can go on the dragon, right? Am I right about that?
Yeah, and I think you have to upgrade him to the Imperial Prince
you do.
Which means he has to take like the 100-point weapon or whatever. So the dragon is very much a legacy thing for the Empire book. It's always cool when you see one, but Empire and dragon is not normally a sentence you put together. So.
All right, moving on. The bubble for the bubble for the altar for the altar of battle went to 8 inches from 6 inches, and that extra 2 inches can actually make a big difference.
Yeah, that's a pretty big deal with how the like kind of fightier block Empire lists work. It's often that wagon wanted to be in 2 places at once, and with that extra little bit of range can get there, rather than like putting it at the side at the end of a movement or doing something weird with it.
And now, just to clarify, that's the hatred bubble. The prayers are still a 6-inch aura.
Yeah. So it's just the arcane engine and the altar of battle. So the wizard wagon does it too, which is I think the more important thing than the hatred bubble.
Yep, there you go. All those increased to 8 inches. Okay. Yep. Interesting. I think that's good. I mean, I'm down with that. I mean, Empire is very much a leadership bubble. It's a bubble army. You got to be very aware of the bubbles, and this loosens that a little bit, which is nice. I think that's fine. And let's see here. Moving on. Light infantry can no longer. You can't do the champion thing with the light infantry anymore.
Yeah, and that's the same with the Ogre book and the ID book, where no more special champions.
And I think that's a good call. I mean, it just complicated the game.
Yeah. Electoral Cav went up to max unit size of 20, which I think before they were 15.
Yeah, so we might see some more night buses, like real night buses.
Yep.
That's interesting.
20. I remember they at one point moved like boar cav up to like 30s, and you just start to mentally picture how big that unit is in your mind. But yeah, nightly orders got removed from electoral cav, so they're their own unit now.
Interesting. They're a one of a kind unit.
Which is how like the paladin from KOE got removed from the Duke, so he's like his own separate thing.
Yeah, the only real difference here is it's you can only field a max of 15 nightly orders.
Yeah, it's 5 to 15 in the unit, but if you have the Knight Commander, you can have 4 units.
Yeah, it's interesting.
Yeah, it's cool. It's pretty much the same rule, but now it's like a little bit more spaced out.
Yeah. Keep on
no
scrolling.
Change to Imperial Guard.
They reworded
the wagon changes
riders.
The same.
Yeah. The cannon lost clipped wings, which is this is a game-wide thing. Cannons are losing clipped wings.
Yep. And then probably the biggest and most relevant change is the steam tank.
Yes, sir. No longer the 4d6 maybe boosted to 5, or 4d3 maybe boosted to 5d3 movement. It's just 2d6. No more putting the gas to the pedal to the metal anymore.
Yeah, it seems like for wave 3, tis the season for kneecapping, because the steam tank got done pretty dirty.
Yeah.
From what I can tell.
And now as defensive skill 0, what was the HP and resilience before?
It was res 6 before, but it was HP 7.
Yeah.
It lost fear.
Yeah.
Which didn't really matter, but was always nice to have. It lost its impact hits, its strength 7 impact hits, which is rough, like super rough.
So I'm confused about the steam power special rule here. So it says it always restrains its pursuit tests, and its pursuit and overrun distance in the melee phase is 0, but in the movement phase, the pursuit distance rolls are maximized. When are you doing pursuit rules in the movement phase? Or is that referring to just its regular advance roll?
I think because of how random move is worded, that needs to be worded that way, because random move is treated as a pursuit roll.
I gotcha. But no, it's okay. It's something to do with the wording. So it's just that means you roll 3d6 and pick the highest 2 in the movement phase.
I think. I think.
I'm a little confused by the wording on this also. I also realized the steam cannon got unwieldy. So if it moves, you're taking -2 to hit, which is rough.
Yeah. And now it kind of crumbles in combat also.
Yeah, it takes a wound if it loses combat. That's weird.
It really feels like they went to town on the steam tank. Like it's a very miserable model in its history to play against.
Yeah.
However, I think this is a bit of a overcorrection.
Yeah, I agree. This is pretty gnarly. I think the reason why they were so heavy-handed is because it was almost an auto-include in Empire lists. It was I don't know the term they use, but like choice saturation. Like almost every single Empire list had a steam tank in it.
Yeah, it's definitely the sacred cow. When you talk to Empire players about cutting it, they'd be like, "What? Well, no, you can't do that."
Why would I not take it?
This really seems.
Yeah.
This really seems like a overcorrection to me.
How many points did it go down?
It only went down 70. But it lost so much that I think this needs to be looked at again. And that's coming from someone who has no love for the steam tank.
Yeah, I don't know. We'll see. We need to play it out a little bit. Maybe just the steam tank doesn't need to be that like immovable object it used to be. But we'll see. We'll see. And that's the Empire Sonnstahl book.
Yeah.
Overall,
seems pretty safe.
Yeah.
Compared to some of the Wave 2 changes.
Yeah, I feel like the book took a nerf just because of the steam tank stuff, but
yeah, it feels like they gave it a nerf and didn't pass it a buff, really. Which, for the most part, when they took something away, they gave something back. And this just seems like they took something away and forgot to give something back.
Yeah, I agree. All right. Next up, since I'm gonna make the judgment call, we're gonna leave both undead armies to the end because VC is your book. So that leaves us with Warrior of the Dark Gods and Sylvan Elves. Which one would you like?
Let's do Warriors. That way, the Warrior players can tune out. They've got short attention spans. So.
Let's see. On the first page here, there are some changes to the actual favors of the Dark Gods here. So
it's a lot of blue.
Yeah, it's a lot of blue. Let's talk about Envy first. Instead of getting Swiss Stride rerolling ones, now they just have a maximized charge, pursuit, and overrun roll. They're basically
beasts. Make some beasts without being beasts. It doesn't say an additional maximized, so it still doesn't really do anything for Cav.
Yeah.
And losing the reroll ones was pretty rough.
That hurts, yeah. But this was always the lowest point option upgrade, right?
Yeah. Except for, I think it was expensive on Chosen because the rerolls were great on them. But yeah.
Now the difference here, this is something to consider, changing it from Swift Stride to maximized rolls, meaning already Swift Stride things like Cavalry are now rolling 4 dice and picking the highest 2.
No, because it's not an additional maximized. It's just subject to maximized rolls.
Really? Oh, that's just... are you sure?
Yeah.
I thought maximized stacked.
I'm pretty sure, because I think that's how Cosmos worded, but maybe it works on Cav now. If it works on Cav, Envy's a little bit better. But I thought I had to say an additional thing of maximized, but I could be wrong on that.
Like when you put the attribute to divination on a Saurian Ancient unit, you roll 4 dice for the leadership, minimized.
Oh yeah, it might just be for it. Yeah, no, I think you're right. It's each instance of. So yeah.
So that makes it. This might be good for cavalry lists.
Yeah, throwing 4 dice on your chosen knights seems pretty good.
Yeah. Let's move on to Gluttony.
So Gluttony kind of changed to go in line with the Demon change to Gluttony, to where now you don't need to beat the unit and not move. Now it's just if you won a round of combat, you're going to get +1 strength.
And it's until the end of the game, so it's just you do it one time, they're +1 strength the rest of the game. They can't get any more after that.
Yeah, it's kind of weird. The Demon item that is more or less this ability, the Demon Manifestation, gives you AP. Why the Warriors one doesn't? But
that's a good point. That's a very good point.
I'm sure that has something to do with Spike Shield. But
all right.
Yeah.
Greed stays.
Lost Strider.
The Lost Strider. That's the only thing that's different. And then Sloth. I remember you saying you saw this and you have an opinion.
Yeah.
Go ahead. You do it.
So Sloth is now, it went from +1 resilience on the model to -1 to wound. And then if you move, so they got rid of the weird 10-inch thing. So now it's if you declare a charge or make a march move, it's lost until the melee phase in the next player turn. So Sloth is still really awkward to track, which is kind of obnoxious. But I think -1 to wound, for the most part, it's a little bit worse than +1 toughness or +1 resilience. But against things that are like high strength, that are wounding your warriors on 2s or whatever, this seems quite a bit better.
Yeah, it is better. Yeah, this is very much like the +1 to wound with Dread Elf core. You know, you can really
and it's definitely better versus Dread Elves, because Dread Elves don't care that you have +1 toughness, but they do care that you have -1 to wound.
Exactly. So yeah, of all the new favors of the Dark Gods in the Ninth Age lore, I've always been fascinated with the goddess of sloth. I think like that's a cool theme. I've always dreamt of making an all sloth army, so maybe I can do it now.
Yeah. I'd be more into all raccoons, but I could see all sloths.
All right, the Wrath. You just get lightning reflexes. All the +1 agility and the +1 to hit you in combat is gone. You just get lightning reflexes in the first round of combat.
I think this change is actually pretty good for Wrath, just because it rewards you for taking weapons other than great weapons. The only time you ever saw Wrath before was if the guy had a great weapon.
Yeah.
Now that you just gain lightning reflexes, it actually makes the halberd kind of a decent choice.
Yeah.
And that now you don't mind. Like before, you took the great weapon because you're like, well, they're +1 to hit me, so I need to kill them first. Now it's just lightning reflexes, so the first round you're a little bit more killy.
Yeah. Yeah. That's a good change. It's a good
Seems
change.
good.
The +1 to hit yourself was, I thought, weird. I didn't like it, but
yeah.
Okay, moving on. Special rules are the same. Magic items. Wasteland Torch can now no longer be taken by core. Fine. And the Zealot's Banner is a little bit different.
Yeah, so the extra support rule is now in the main rule book. So that's kind of what Zealot's Banner did before. But now it applies to units that aren't just infantry.
Yeah.
So it helps, I guess in theory, it helps like Feldrax and stuff.
Helps Feldrax, helps Forsworn.
No, Forsworn don't have that many attacks.
Oh,
jeez.
Never mind. So it really only helps helps Feldrax. Wow, that's interesting.
Yep. Oh, it helps Chosen Knights. It helps Chosen Knights.
Oh yeah, true. If they have paired weapons.
No, because it lets the mounts fight. The bear's unit gains extra support. So yeah, it lets the mounts fight.
Oh, that's interesting. But no, isn't the cavalry rule things that have harnessed or whatever the rule is for the mount? If it has that rule, it cannot make supporting attacks.
Oh, maybe.
I don't think.
Be it.
Yeah, I don't think it gives the mount supporting attacks. Yeah.
I know there's the like KOE thing that gives them supporting attacks, and I can never remember how that hoop is jumped through to work correctly.
No.
But still, it's just cleaning up in line, putting it in a line, and then making it be takeable on Feldrax for some reason.
Because Feldrax needed more.
Icon of the Infinite can go in core now, which is pretty cool.
Okay, interesting. Icon of the Infinite was Hellfire Hereditary Bound Spell. Interesting.
Yeah. So it's a pretty decent banner if your core for some reason doesn't have a magic banner, like your Wizard Bunker or something like that.
Yeah, you just throw it on there, yeah. Okay,
the Exalted...
How did it go up or down in points?
He went down in points, but he lost a spell. He lost an inch of movement. And he lost something. Sorcerer Immortal changed. I think it was Channel 2 before.
I think these changes are called for. The Exalted Herald was always so good.
Yeah, he is very, very good. I do enjoy, just for consistency's sake, that Brand of the Dragon gives him the movement of a dragon. That's a nice little consistency
That's
nod.
a nice little tip of the hat right there.
Losing that third spell, I think, is going to be actually pretty rough.
Yeah, because it's gonna make hard choices. When before it was like, okay, I want this, and that done. Now it's gonna give the Exalted Herald a little bit of more harder choices at the beginning of the game, which I appreciate.
Also losing light troops, I'm not sure. He can take a breath weapon, so losing light troops is kind of interesting.
Oh, so
I'm not sure if it really matters.
So he can't march and shoot his... No, you can still march and shoot a breath weapon. That's in the rules, yeah.
Oh yeah, it's a breath weapon. Yeah.
Yeah. So I don't know
maybe
what...
lose light troops, then.
Yeah, it doesn't make sense to me. He's always going to be a single model.
He's not towering, so I guess in theory he could have been steadfast in the woods for some reason.
Yeah. Okay, whatever.
I don't know why I lost light troops, but Chosen Lord went down, I think, but the favors went up.
Yeah, so it's no big whoop.
Yeah. And then
is this a change that the Dark Prelate now gets Spectral Blades? Did it have Spectral Blades before?
It was always Spectral Blades before. I don't. Maybe it said before it can cast the one spell from Evocation or something like that.
Oh, I see.
Yeah.
Doom Lord is the same. Sorcerer is the same, but now the Sorcerer doesn't have to be the general to take the Wasteland Dragon. Just has to be a Wizard Master.
But he does have to be a master.
Yeah.
So before he could be an apprentice riding the dragon as long as he was the general.
Yes.
So it was a pretty cheap dragon.
Yeah.
But now he's like 1 billion points, which I mean, I love 1,000-point dragons. That's my bread and butter, but it makes more sense.
Yeah. Let's see here. The Feldrake Ancestor. It's a legitimate access.
So now it was. So before you could take multiple Feldrake Ancestors and. No,
it's the same. It's just a rewording. There's no change there.
Oh,
okay.
Okay. I was like, they just moved the sentence from the top of the paragraph to the bottom of the paragraph.
Totally worth it. Okay. Wasteland Dragon, again, aligning with all the other dragons, all 714 fly and movement. It's 0 to 1 mounts. Was it 0 to 2 before to have a Wasteland Dragon? I don't remember. It's 0 to 1 mounts.
No, it used to be general only.
Oh, okay.
So it was a secret backdoor 0 to 1.
Yeah. But now the meeting of the minds, it gets +4 march rate, so it can march for ground movement, so it can march on the ground 18 inches.
Yeah, which I think it could actually do before. I seem to remember the Wasteland Dragon was like 816 on the ground and like 612 in the air or something like that.
Yeah.
There was some weird lore backstory about it doesn't like to fly because it can't pay the rates or something like that. I don't remember, but so it pretty much just stayed the same.
It has something to do with Feldrakes, and they don't like each other, and I don't know. All right, so no big changes there.
Yeah.
The point values got adjusted on for the upgrades got adjusted on warriors.
Yeah, pretty much anyone who can take a favor, the points have bumbled around a little bit.
Yeah. So chosen. So they just the extra support attacks got changed, but then the point values changed also. Those go up or down?
I think they went down. So the chosen were the initial models that had the weird extra support rule.
Yeah.
So now they just are brought in line with
the core rules, yeah.
with everyone else. Though it's sad to lose a rule called Master of Battle, but
it's true. That is true. I'm just going through here. Nothing's. Feldrakes are now large, tall, which might make a difference, I guess.
So that is in line with anyone who is a centaur.
Oh, that makes sense.
Yeah. Wretched Ones got a little bit more expensive for the additional dudes.
Let's talk about the big change, the Hellmaw.
Yep. It's all blue, baby.
So I read through this, and it really got nerfed. It got nerfed. You can no longer jump units from a marker to another marker. You have to jump from the Hellmaw model to a marker.
Okay.
So you the second, but they got away with the extra gateways. You can now do up to 4 gateways. Start with 2 on the board. You can get up to 4 gateways. That's standard now. But when you jump, you have to start from within 6 inches of the. Hold on, let me read this. Target a single unengaged friendly unit within 6 inches of the model that does not contain a. Yeah, so you have to be within 6 inches of the Hellmaw. The Hellforged armor rule doesn't apply anymore, so anyone can jump through anything but gigantic models. Yep. And then you do the special ambush rule to one of the gateways, so you no longer can show up just within 6 inches of a gateway. You have to start touching the gateway, and then you can move off of it.
Yeah.
So that's for me, and from my eyes of someone who plays against warriors a fair amount, that's a pretty hard nerf.
Though it does mean you can jump Feldrakes.
Yes, you can.
And Wretched Ones.
But it's like a one-shot thing now. It's not like I jump it over there, I counteract, respond, and then they get jumped somewhere else. So it's more of a one-trick pony now. And also, since it's the special ambush rule, they have to be touching the center of the token of the void of the gateway. So you can drop a chaff piece onto a gateway, and it's blocked.
Yeah.
That's a big deal.
I do think, though, being able to teleport specifically Feldrakes and Wretched Ones is
it's
pretty
nice.
good. And also, I don't know. It's interesting. Though you could, with 2 of them, cover quite a bit of ground.
True.
On your teleports. And they're a bit more durable, actually. They're 6 wounds T6 now.
Yeah.
So they're like an actual decent monster. They're gigantic. They
just
trundle forward, 612.
But they still only stomp once, right? They're gigantic, so that gives them D6 thunderstorms?
No, they're constructs, so they don't get a thunderstomp.
They don't get any thunderstorms, yeah. All right, so that's the same. I think that's a nerf for the Hellmaw, but also I found playing against the heavy Hellmaw army was really difficult, so I appreciate the nerf.
Yeah, if it always felt pretty gimmicky.
Yeah.
Gimmicky, and then if it wasn't a gimmick, it was a gotcha, and now it's just kind of like, it lets you redeploy. Okay.
It was so hard to defend against the Hellmaw army. So anyway, it's interesting.
Yep.
Interesting. Moving on.
I think that's it, right?
Yeah, the giant, just reverting with the giant, and that's it. That's everything.
Yep.
So again, overall, I'm surprised to see this many changes to the Warriors of the Dark Clouds list, because this was the first LAB that came out. I feel like they were in a solid spot, and I'm surprised they just did this many changes. I'm surprised, but
and none of them feel like debuffs, besides maybe the Hellmaw.
Yeah.
Which is kind of interesting. Yeah. I think they're good changes. I think, especially like the dragon change, it always kind of bothered me to see an apprentice who's the general on a dragon.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Actually, actually, I'm not 100% of the words I just said. Would you go into the main rulebook really quick and look up the rule for special ambush? When you special ambush, do you have to be touching that particular point when you ambush in?
Believe you do, because it's like ambushing from a board edge, right?
Yeah.
It's just,
or is it like the old rules? Yeah.
no, because special ambush just means you treat whatever the thing you special ambush from as the point of ingress. So it's the same as a normal ambush.
Okay.
So you start touching the board edge, and then you move on.
Okay. Fair enough. Okay, moving on to Sylvan Elves.
Yeah.
Good old Woodies.
An army that apparently everyone owned in 2022. After long years in the box, a bunch of them showed up.
Yeah, there's just some rewording in the special rules. Nothing. No rules changes. Hereditary is the same.
I think before you could tree sing. Oh no! So the tree singing change is just because the dragon's meeting of minds is tree singing.
Yeah.
So the first real changes are kindreds.
Yeah.
The Wild Hunter kindred calmed down quite a bit. It seems like overall, with all three waves, they've been moving away from all these things change your stats to these things give you special abilities.
Yeah, I agree.
So there's a lot less, when you're this, you get +2 attacks and this and this and this. Now it's like, here's all these special rules, but you don't actually get base stat changes.
Which I'm fine with.
The Shapeshifter, I think this is the saddest change for me. The Shapeshifter was one of my favorite things to play in Sylvan's. He was such a truly bizarre and out-of-place model in the Elf book, but that made him really fun. Now, I'm pretty sure his only role in life is to be a carrier pigeon to drop off the wood, the teleporting wood, and then he's just chaff.
Yeah, that's pretty much it. He's just not as good as he was in combat.
He used to be a beast in combat.
Yeah.
Now he's still just move 5, not Swift Stride. So you just want him for the March 20. Yeah. Like, I know no one took the Shapeshifter before, but this change makes me pretty sad.
Oh, I'm sorry.
The Blade Dancer thing just picked up exclusive, which you more or less had before.
The Forest Guardian has hatred instead of +1 attack. Does hatred translate to his unit or just him?
Just him.
Yeah.
But it's the same as the Wild Rider one where he lost the +1 attack.
Yeah.
So I think it's just in line with the same thing where if it changes your stats, you're going to get something else instead.
Let's see here.
So there's some big changes in the weapons. The 2 bows that they had before, Life Seed Feathers, and I can't remember the other one's name, are gone. And they're replaced with 2 new bows. So the first one is Bow of Wyson, which replaced the one that depended how far away you were when you took your shot. So this one is always just a bolt thrower, strength 4, 6, AP 2, 10, 1x5, multiple wound 2.
Mm-hmm.
The big thing about this is actually it can be taken on the Pathfinder characters who have Master Archer, so they can add +2 AP to their shots. So this bow is AP 4 on the Pierce, which is
good.
Pretty gross for KOE.
Yeah.
And stuff like that. You're gonna make a lot of lances pretty sad.
I'm okay with it because I've always been in the opinion that even though the Sylvan Elves are pretty strong with shooting, I still think they need to have a little more oomph with shooting.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah,
Okay, I
agree there. Yeah.
I have a question on Watcher's Woe. It says shots are set to 4. Then, if you make them a Pathfinder, it's set to 4. The number of shots.
Yeah.
I thought it added more on the shots to the Pathfinder character, but I was wrong. Never mind.
No. So Watcher's Woe is secretly a mage item.
Yeah. Pretty much.
But I think you'll actually, before you never saw the magic bows, for the most part, which is kind of sad because that's like one of Sylvan Elves' things. And now I think both of these are great choices.
I agree.
Yeah. And then Mistwalker's Mirror is the other change, and it just it was the teleporting item, and now it's just special ambush, which is
it's the same. It's
more
the
or less
same.
what it was.
It's basically the same item. It's just it changed the wording, right?
Yes. Yeah.
And it was before. It was always the end of the movement phase, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. The coolest thing for the Forest Prince is actually Sylvan Blades got like 15 points cheaper because Titanic Might is no more.
Yep. That great
so
combo
Sylvan
is
Blades
gone.
can get cheap again.
Yeah.
No other changes until we get to the Unicorn.
Yeah, this is a cool change. I'm stoked about this. Go ahead.
Yeah, so it picked up a rule called Herald of Sura, which is units consisting entirely of cavalry models, or while the models in a unit consisting entirely of cavalry, place a forced range feature under the unit that always extends to the edge of the unit's unit boundary. So pretty much as long as the Unicorn's in a cavalry unit, you're always in the wood.
So that affects it 2 ways. One, it gives a hard target 1, so it's a little harder to shoot. Cool.
Yep.
But it also, in combat, that means you're re-rolling 1s to wound, right?
Yeah. So the other 2 elf books have a elf special rule that works all the time, and the Sylvan Elf one was always frustrating because it worked every other Tuesday.
Yeah.
And the Sylvan Unicorn kind of makes at least one unit always have that rule going. The one downside to this model is the only model that can take it is the Druid.
Yeah.
And I believe the best save he can get now is a 5-up Aegis because he can't take armor.
Ooh.
Because before the Unicorn also used to add 1 to your Aegis save.
Yeah,
it doesn't do that anymore.
I think this is a really interesting change. I think you'll see more unicorns. I think this is a good change.
Yeah. And the Unicorn's always a really cool option.
Moving on to the dragon.
Yep. So it got tree singing, which is pretty cool. But also when it's in the woods, it gets to reroll 1s to wound with its close combat attacks, which is pretty solid.
I think. Well, I feel like that's really situational. I really do feel like that's very situational.
Yeah.
But I guess with the
especially
hereditary
with
spell,
Druidism.
Yeah.
Druidism losing that forest spell means you've only got 1 forest spell now.
But the hereditary spell still does
nice
it,
to
right?
have. Yeah, so you've just got the hereditary.
Yeah. Okay.
But picking up free rerolls to wound is never a bad thing.
True. Okay.
You could be a dragon giving 2 orders instead. So. I'll take this.
All right, I'm going through. I'm seeing no changes. Forest Rangers got a little cheaper.
No, so Forest Rangers actually went up.
Oh. Woo.
I was talking to Vespasian about this actually, because I was like, why would a Forest Ranger become more expensive? And he's like, oh well, they were the hotness in Europe, and they paid the price for it. But one of the cool things was the unit could buy Vanguard, but you never had an option to buy characters Vanguards.
And now it gives it to him. So it's
So now it passes it off to the character, which is nice.
So you could, in theory, now you could just run. You could make a heavy Vanguard list, like a Dwarf Slayer list, but with Sylvan Elves. It's kind of interesting.
Yeah.
Interesting. Okay. Moving on.
Blade Dancers don't have a change. They just moved where magic resistance is. It's not a defensive rule. It's just a basic rule.
Briar Maidens got access to Master of Earth, and I think they're a little cheaper or more expensive.
No, they went up.
Yeah. Because people were using this to add on to the amount of shooting in their army.
And it's probably the best bunker for your actual druid as well. And that's it.
That's all she wrote. Yeah. What do you think overall?
I think for the most part it's just safe changes. Its points increases kind of across the board, but I think with those 2 new bows, you'll see some new lists, which is pretty cool.
Yeah.
As someone who plays Sylvan Elves recreationally, not competitively, I like the changes.
Yeah, I think they're good changes. I'm pleased with them. Even though Sylvan Elves were the hotness over the past couple months, I think they still needed these changes.
Yeah. So now just the cream of the crop is left, just some undead.
The undead armies. We've made it here finally. Of course, we're doing UD first because I'm saving VC for the last. But
do you know the second we have finished the VC book, I'm just gonna sign off, and you'd have to do the other books by yourself. So making me wait.
UD. Dust to dust is you just lose 1 health point now instead of the difference of you failing a leadership check.
Yep. So this is a change for both of the undead books, so they're the same. So now when the Hierophant or Master dies, no one takes over his job, which is kind of how it worked before.
Yeah.
But you only crumble a little bit now instead of these super swingy crumbles. So I think this is a huge positive. As someone who plays undead, this is massive. And it makes more like MSU or MMU undead lists not as perilous.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Huh.
So I like this change a lot. I think it's very good.
Okay. Underground ambush is gone because the special ambush is now the rule.
Just special ambush.
Mummy's curse is completely gone, which is fine. No one ever remembered that.
I found UD players always remembered it, and then they remembered it was one hit, and they get really sad. They're like, "Oh, you killed my pharaoh! Here it comes!" And it's like, "Yeah, all right, that's nice."
All right, so that's not a big deal. Not a big deal. Okay, we got to talk about the new hereditary spell. I have a rules question that I don't quite understand yet, but I want to talk to you about it. So previously, this was you could choose to do an upgraded version, which will do the healing. You can still that made the spell too harder to cast. You can do the same thing now, but that +2 to cast only happens when you target an ensouled statue.
Yes.
Now the question is, Hierophants have the special rule where they can choose to put the hereditary on a unit that they did not cast the spell on. So if you target, if you target, for instance, a unit that is not a entomb statue when you cast the spell, does that mean the hereditary spell you can put and you successfully cast it, so it doesn't matter what the casting value is? Does that mean you can then put that on an ensouled statue unit after that, or do you have to only put one that's on? You can only do it on one where you rolled high enough on that first roll.
So the Hierophant rule is must include when the Hierophant casts Death is only the beginning as a non-bound spell, you may choose to set the spell range to 18 inches instead of the normal targeting restrictions. So you are still casting it, you're not moving the hereditary around, and it's its own spell that goes as part of casting the spell. So I'd assume if you hit an ensouled statue unit, it would still go up.
Yeah,
it's just part of the cast.
But the question is, you choose the target of the spell first, and then attribute spells you choose to target afterward, after you've already rolled the casting dice. So that means if you don't roll 2 more than the casting value, you can't.
So Death is only the beginning happens in a different step than the normal attribute does.
Oh.
At the end of step 1 of each casting attempt.
Oh, so you resolve
it
Death.
It happens like when a sacrifice would happen, like the occultism thing.
Right after you roll the dice. So now you still roll the dice first.
You still roll the dice first,
and you see if you made the additional 2 on top of the casting value, and then you can choose where to put Death at the beginning depending on what you rolled.
Yeah, so if you pick up change, so to speak, on your casting value, you could drop it on statues.
That's interesting. That's a little bit complicated, but it's interesting.
But I think this will ease some pains that UD players have been having, where all their spells are just for some reason initially 2 more to cast.
Yeah.
Now it's yeah. I think this is a pretty good change. It's
this is a good change. Do you think it's really gonna? Is it gonna? Of course, UD players have always complained about that +2 to casting value. Is this enough of a change to settle those fears?
I don't think so. I think it's more this puts them back in line with the middle of the pack rather than kind of straggling along the tail end.
Yeah.
But I think for the UD players who remember when they were king of the heap, I don't think those days are coming back with this change.
All right, moving on. Let's see here. Magic. No, this is just all.
Banner of the Entombed is now just special ambush.
Yeah.
Where the point is more than 12 inches away from an enemy unit. Which is
Go ahead.
pretty good because you no longer scatter.
Yeah,
right?
There's no more scattering. Yeah.
Which it was always a really weird rule to have from a game that got rid of the scatter dice. So I'm happy about that, and I think it makes like these little underground ambush scoring units a lot better.
Yeah, they do. It makes them a lot better. Random question: are Mad Gits the only thing that use scatter dice anymore?
I think so. Yeah, it's just the Orcs and Goblins book now.
Interesting. So the Sacred Hourglass took a hit. You can re-roll those 2 dice.
But only the first
only
one.
the first one. Yeah, that took a major hit.
And only an augment.
Yeah.
So no tossing out a snipe or a hex or anything like that.
And it's still 100 points. It's still 100 points.
Well, easy come, easy go, UD players, I guess. Your spells got cheaper, but your item got moved to the Lizardman book, so...
Yeah.
Oops.
Oh boy. Okay, so that's a big hit in my eyes. That's a big hit.
Yeah.
And the Monarchs of Undeath are the same, the 2 different army choices. When they made these changes initially, like way back when they created the 2 Monarchs of Undeath, I thought they were gonna try to repeat this in other armies where you can like change the whole army in a certain way to create a certain kind of army, and that never really materialized, which makes me sad because I think this is a really cool part of the UD book.
This honestly feels like the last special character bastion.
Yeah.
Like this is I kind of wish they'd just put all this in blue and like change nothing, but no one really reads this page. So it could just all be blue and you'd be like, "Ooh." And then move on with your life.
Every once in a while the terracotta army was the hotness, but now like, I have never seen one take a Barrel Legion army, like ever.
No, it doesn't. There's so many restrictions that it doesn't make sense.
Yeah. Pharaoh went up or down in points? 230 now.
I think he went down. I think it was 250 before. Which 20 points for the Mummy's Curse seems like a lot. So
yeah,
great.
I'll take it. I think points went down kind of across the board.
Everyone went down.
Tomb
Harbinger lost Royal Guard, which is good because that rule was terrible.
Yeah, it was.
That was you had to declare a challenge.
Yeah, to either declare or accept a challenge. Yeah.
Yep. The Tomb Architect, you can't assassinate him anymore, which is nice.
How so?
It's just until your next. So the unit gains Fortitude 5 up until the start of your next player turn, and then the line or until he's removed as a casualty is crossed out.
Yeah.
So now he just gives them the Fortitude until he doesn't.
Until whole player turn. Interesting.
It looks like Wizard Master only for the 2 upgrades, which I think again is a constriction on the magic phase.
Oh, the Hierophant, you can only do it as a Wizard Master. Interesting.
Yeah. And you have to take a Hierophant, right?
Yep.
Or no. Yeah.
Let's see here. Let me go to the Hierophant rule. One of a kind, must include a single Hierophant model. Yeah.
Interesting. So you are completely priced in to at least.
No, what this does is it gives the magic item that gives the Hierophant rule much more value. If you still if you still want to do an Adept Hierophant, you can still do that, but it's with the magic item now.
Okay, yeah. Okay. So yeah, it seems like the spells got cheaper, but the casters got more expensive.
Yeah.
So that might be the balancing thing.
They took away the rule from the casket when it blows up, it hurts everyone, which I thought that was a fun rule.
Yep. Yeah, that seems to be like removing gotcha rules. But I don't know. That rule felt fine and themey. Like if any model's gonna blow up when it dies, it should be the casket.
Yeah, I agree with that. Let's see here. Keep on moving down.
Well of Souls. Is Well of Souls just the Casket of Souls thing?
This was the one you can replace your player's magic card with the one that was not that good.
Oh yeah.
And it made
the weird 5 and 5.
And it made miscasts a lot more common for your enemy. I'm sad to see this go. I thought running the double arc where you could two player turns, you could throw that card at your opponent and make them much more susceptible to a miscast. I thought that was a great way of shutting down opponents' magic phases instead of just using a binding scroll. I'm really sad to see this rule go. I'm really sad to see it go.
I'm sad because it also means that my true pipe dream item, which is just some amount of points to burn a magic card out of the deck at the start of the game, is looking less and less like it may actually be a thing one day. I would love to see that item exist, but yeah. So losing Well of Souls is sad.
Yeah, that is sad. Going down, core seems fine. Skeleton Chariots looks like they went up or down in points. They lost Chariot Host. That was the extra impact hits? The Chariot Host rule?
Yes, I think so.
Or was it added strength to the impact hits depending on the ranks behind the first or something like that?
Yeah, I think it was the Ogre thing, right? Where if there are chariots behind you, you get stronger.
No, it was
I think they got
a
few points cheaper, right?
Yeah. Interesting. Moving on. The Necropolis Guard, the res value went up, I think, by it's 4 now, or was it 5 before? I don't remember.
I don't know. My guess is it went up. But Special Ambush is just replaced. Scarab Swarms lost their every guy makes a supporting attack, and now you just get 3 supporting attacks.
Yeah, so you're losing some attacks there, but it's still pretty damn good. This is just as good as the. This is not as good as the Serpent Swarms from Story and Ancient book, because the Serpent Swarm book guys are not skirmished, so you can focus fire on one character. You can get 3 wide on one character, but now these guys are skirmished, so they're not doing that.
Yep.
Some points adjustments.
Sandstalkers got brought in line with the Medusa or Gorgon from the Dread Elf book. Yeah. And now it appears that if you look at anyone in 9th Age, this is what you do.
This is the look attack.
And once again, they picked up tall because they're centaurs.
Yeah, that makes sense. I like this attack a lot more than the old Petrifying Gaze.
The old one was it wounded off your agility, right?
Yeah, but it wasn't very. The initial attack was only like strength 4. So if you're going against normal agility, which is against elite units, is usually 4. You're wounding on 4 pluses, and you still have to roll the hit. And this is a lot better. This
one is. I'm dicey on this one because Sandstalkers were one of the ways UD really handled monsters. And like before, a Scourge couldn't go anywhere near a Sandstalker unit. Like those kind of monsters just couldn't go anywhere near. And now they just need a 6 to wound rather than they were wounding Scourges on 2s before.
Yeah. That's true.
So I think this is a nerf overall, but with the change to Special Ambush, it might just be something that needed to be balanced.
It's much more precise, with the new Special Ambush.
Yeah.
All right. The catapult is now, there's no 2 options. It's just a 5x5. Flaming hits, magic attack, strength 3 with the center being strength 7. No multiple wounds.
And if it actually hits, then it causes a panic test.
Yeah, if it actually if it actually causes a panic.
No, this weapon always hits on. Oh, okay.
Panic
On
tests
rolls
caused by this weapon are
caused
taken
by
at
this
-1.
weapon. Okay. Yeah. Not having a hole anymore. Like they lost two things that help first monsters, which seems kind of weird.
Yeah, that does hurt a lot.
But I think it got cheaper.
Yeah, it did get cheaper.
So, yeah. And 5x5 is not terrible. EP 0 is rough, but yeah, it's not terrible. And flaming attacks is pretty good with how much fortitude's starting to be running around the place.
That's a good point. The flaming attacks is interesting.
It actually seems like the charnel catapult's a bit better in Saurian ancient land right now.
Yeah. All right.
Sand Scorpion just has special ambush.
Yeah.
And just a few little point changes here and there, and I think that's it.
No changes to the Tomb Reapers, which is interesting.
Yeah, they got a little cheaper, right? But that's it.
Yeah.
Yep.
So overall, I am surprised to say I think this is a nerf to the UD, which I was not expecting.
Yeah. It's a little weird because it's like a compliment sandwich almost, where they start off with like something really good. They're like, oh yeah, your spell got cheaper, and now we get to the bad stuff where everything else is a negative.
It's just sad. I was hoping to see these guys have a little bit of a rebirth and more UD players coming out of the woodworks, but it's not going to happen.
Yeah, but when you own a bunch of skeletons, there's always a second option, and it's the book that keeps on giving. So
we have finally arrived at the VC book, the Twinkle in Henry's Eye, the VC book.
Yeah,
we are here. Let's see what happened. Master of Undeath. Oh, this is the whole master thing. So the master thing's gone.
Yeah, so the master thing used to be because other models could pick up the mantle when the general died.
Oh, and now it's just the general.
Yeah. Yep, so now it's just the general, but ashes to ashes is not as punishing, which is the crumble when your general dies. So it's more than a positive trade.
Yeah, that's
especially with how much VC crumbled when that general went down the first time.
Yeah. I'm fine with that. Well, so the meeting of the minds, I don't know why it's here instead of with the unit entry, but now meeting the minds is the special rule that goes along with the dragon. The dragon in the VC book now gets necromantic aura, which is
it reduces the crumble by 1 within 6 inches. The reason meeting of minds is here is because, like the Highborn Elf book, we have multiple dragons. So it's a full-blown special rule instead of an entry rule.
What do you think of that?
I play a lot of zombie dragons, and just reducing the crumble of your general, who is most of the time your general, by 1, means that now, before, if you got charged by a unit with 3 ranks and a banner and a unit champ, if they had any other res, they could push wounds on you that first turn if they charged you for some reason.
Yeah.
Now this kind of insulates you from that.
Interesting.
Yeah, I really like this meeting of minds. It's very, very safe, which is what you want the VC book to be. The VC book is about redundancy and safety. So I like this meeting of minds.
The next big change is it's all of the blood powers.
Yes. So this change is huge for a couple of reasons. The first one being the old VC book had a system that was set up that was really cool, but actually made itself a bit irrelevant, which was if you were a bloodline, you paid more for core and you got access to these bloodline powers, but you also had to pay for the expensive bloodline powers, which meant you're kind of getting taxed twice. And then if you weren't a major bloodline, core was 20%. That's gone. But the trade-off is now its bloodlines are a grab bag more than like hard and fast rules.
So there's no rules about. So what I've noticed about the ancestral bloodlines and the greater bloodlines, they're all
they're tied to each other.
They're tied to each other. Is there any rule about having one Lamia vampire and a Strigoi vampire in an army anymore?
There's not. So now you can mix and match bloodlines and kind of double dip. Where before, if one person had a bloodline, everyone had to be that bloodline.
And then the other thing to point out is all of the lesser blood powers are all nothing to do with bloodline.
Except for Supreme Lit, but that is actually to cover something that the old Nosferatu bloodline used to let the courtier be a master. And now it's just moved to a different power.
Okay, interesting. So how this is too much for me to like process when I read it.
Okay, so
what do you think the result's gonna be? Yeah.
So the big things is every single bloodline used to change your stats. Now none of them change your stats. So for like Brotherhood of the Dragon, that's a little bit worse because Brotherhood used to give you increases to weapon skill and a few other weird rules. But one of the things was +2 offensive weapon skill, which puts you to a 9. So that's gone. But for like Nosferatu and Lamia, those bloodlines used to take away attacks or things of that nature, and now they don't. So I think overall this is a positive change for vampires.
It gives a little more versatility for your characters, but it's I find the idea of having two different bloodline vampires in the same army like not fluffy.
Yeah, it's a little weird when you think of them like houses or like different kind of families or anything like that to have these different bloodlines. But it's nice that you can now take a bloodline and not have every vampire have to have it. So they don't need to have an ancestral blood power. The greater blood powers are pretty much the same as how they were before, except for Crimson Rage, which Crimson Rage used to be when you do a wound, you'd get another attack at the same agility step. Mm-hmm. Now it just makes you the Minor Warlord.
Yeah. Yeah.
Which, it's kind of funny that the Minor Warlord kind of halfway saw himself out of the Beast Herd book with the change to Blessed Inscriptions.
Blessed Inscriptions, yeah.
And just moved into a book where he can be move 8 with a 1+ and agility 7.
Oh boy.
But no, the bloodlines, when I heard kind of what the design team was thinking about doing for bloodlines, I was pretty worried because this is kind of the heart and soul of the book. But I think these changes are really positive, and the lesser blood powers are actually all just great. I think we'll see a lot of Unbreakable Will, just passing out Stubborn. It used to be attached to Von Karnstein, which is the worst of the bloodlines. But now it's kind of free and independent of that, and I think you'll see a lot more of it.
Yeah, because like that's because stubborn, when a unstable unit has stubborn, it halves the number of wounds.
Halves.
Yeah.
Yeah,
that's
the number
pretty
of
freaking good.
wounds. And that's the start of the crumble, so you can start combining it with BSBs and other stuff like that as well.
Yeah, that's really good. And it was pretty hard to get stubborn before.
Yeah. And Bestial Bulk is another one I think you'll start seeing a little bit more. It used to be a Strigoi only one.
Yeah.
And one of the Strigoi things is you can't take armor. But I could see a world where you're going to see some Brotherhood of the Dragon with Bestial Bulk. Kind of build your own Doom Lord, Forsaken One type deal.
I could totally see that.
And Mysteries of Night now firmly locks vampires into the book that can take the most Lords of Magic, with 7, I believe.
Wow, Jesus! And is that correct? Is that 0 points? 0 points?
0 points. Because one of the changes is now vampire characters have to take at least one bloodline power.
So in theory, they could just take this and have no other upgrades.
Yep. And it changes you from occultism and evocation to cosmo, shamanism, and witchcraft. But you can't be a master with Mysteries of Night, only an adept or an apprentice.
Yeah.
But
interesting.
Overall, this is a huge upgrade, and really liberates a lot of what the book is trying to do.
Yeah. Interesting. Okay, let's move on.
Yep, because I could be here talking about Bloodlines for the next 2 hours.
Eternity Gem becomes immune to...
It used to give immune to lethal strike and multiple wounds, but it didn't use the word immune. Now it uses the word immune.
Yeah.
And then Black Banner of Zagzod, or whatever it's called, used to, for some reason, you could pass out the +1 to hit if you weren't in combat, but skeletons or barrow guard near you were, and no one ever remembered that rule, and it never existed. That's gone. It's just gone.
Yeah, that was a little bit complicated, but yeah, that makes sense.
The core being able to be decreased to 20% is gone, which is the best thing and the worst thing to happen to this book. Because it means you take blood powers now, which is great, but 20% core probably just shouldn't be in the game to begin with, and all the armies that could have it is just correct to be 20% core. No real changes to the Vampire Lord.
Yeah, you say it must take 1 or 2, so that means you cannot take 3.
Yep, you can't like truly stack up blood powers.
Yeah.
And it pretty much means that if you take the middle ones, you have to take the upper ones.
Yeah, because they're all tied.
The lesser ones can be like mix and match, but the 2 big ones are tied together.
Well, you could take the big one and then take one of the lower ones too.
Yes. Yeah.
All right.
So it's just the middle ones. The courtier lost the option to be a master, but he could only do that if he was Nosferatu. No changes to the necromancer.
So Banshee lost.
So they removed a character. Actually, the Felwraith character is gone.
Shnikes.
But he pretty much never existed. Because the Banshee existed and she does his job but better.
Yeah, true.
But she went up 20 points, which is still definitely worth it.
Yeah, it needed to go up. I completely agree with that. 155 is maybe not enough, but at least it went up.
Yeah, she is. If you've ever played against 2 or 3, she's just an anti-personnel mine. That's also just some of the best chaff in the game. and randomly causes terror.
Yep.
Just the model's incredible, and in the hands of good players, it's just gross. So 155 is still probably worth taking 2 to 3.
Yeah.
Scrolling down, one of the big things is since bloodline armies are gone, blood ties are gone. And the first one is the Court of the Damned.
Yeah, you lose the ability to give it the 4-up Aegis, but it just gets a 5-up Aegis.
So not the mount, actually. The mount has no Aegis for some reason.
Oh, but the
one out of special has a 5-up Aegis
Look,
now.
No, I'm looking at the mount, and it has a 5-up Aegis.
Oh, the copy you sent me does not.
I don't know what to say about that.
Yeah.
Okay, well, there you go. It's armor 2 now, so it's a 5-up, but...
Yeah, before it was armor 1, and it was the most awkward thing to remember in the world, because sometimes you take like an AP0 hit and roll like a 4-up, and you're like, oh, I'm good. You're like, wait, no, sorry, I'm not good. I have a 6-up armor I have to get through first.
That's true. All right. Shrieking
no
Horrors,
change to the Shrieking Horror. Monstrous Revenant lost light troops, but it flies, so I think it always had light troops.
I don't know.
I think that's just getting rid of redundancy.
Yeah. And then the dragons all went down to 714, but they all got Meeting of the Minds. Yep. Wait, does that mean I didn't realize? Can you take a zombie dragon and a colossal zombie dragon in an army?
No, they share their 01 mount.
Gotcha. I see it. Scrolling through core, the only. Go ahead. Now
you can take a colossal zombie dragon and have another vampire lord mounted on a Shrieking Horror, which is kind of cool.
The ghouls changed a little bit. They actually have to purchase their musician now, so there. But they're one of the few units that still have the upgrade for being in a Strigoi army.
Yes, if the general has Strigoi, they get Vanguard, which is kind of cool. I actually like that they split the musician away from the champion, because it was really awkward when they killed your champion and you couldn't bring him back until after the movement phase. They've struggled with the ghoul unit for quite a while, because it's like this core combat block that needs command, but thematically can't have command.
Yeah.
So the command group options for ghouls pretty much change with the seasons.
All right. Extra bat swarms got more expensive?
I think it's more. I think they went from like 15 to 20.
But of course,
but
fucking
now
bat
they make
swarms,
supporting attacks.
bat swarms are still so good.
Yeah, they still come out of core. They're still just amazing.
They're just amazing.
And now they get more supporting attacks, which is really cool.
I've never seen a unit of 10 bat swarms starting off at 10.
Joel Boccio had them at Infernal Zoo. He had it
Really?
max unit flying around the board. Yep.
How annoying. Let's see here. Special looks all the same. Barrel Guard went.
Yep, they didn't touch Direwolves.
Yeah.
Barrel Guard went down.
Down for extra models. Wait, hold on. Let's talk about Direwolves. They didn't touch Direwolves.
Yep.
That's crazy.
Direwolves are, and this is a hill I'll die on. Direwolves are the best core unit in the game.
But if you look at my screen right now, right. If you have 8 of them, they become core. I completely agree. They are the best core unit in the game just because of the champion mechanic.
Yep. So the fact that for some reason they keep that champion means they'll keep showing up in lists.
It makes no sense. A champion wolf.
Yeah, so
anyway.
Barrel Guard got cheaper.
Let's see here.
Great.
Dark Coach lost it. It can't be stubborn anymore with the blood ties for Von Karstein.
No more blood ties.
Mm-hmm. Court of the Damned, same thing. But it
picked up an Aegis.
Mm-hmm.
base, and I think it went down in points, which is pretty cool.
Altar of a Death is the same. The Suffering, Phantom Hosts.
Yeah, so this is a ton of changes all at once. So before, it used to be 160 for 2 bases. Now it's 160 for 4 bases.
Whew.
But they had a 2-up Aegis against non-magical before.
Yeah.
And now, since the 2-up has gone away, universally, they have a 3-up. But they also picked up extra support 3 for their attacks. So it's a real...
It's a lot. And also
mixed bag.
And also the max number in the unit went up to 10.
No, 10 in the army, 9 in the unit for some reason.
I'm sorry.
Which seems really weird. But yeah, I think actually for 160 points, a pack of 4 is not terrible at just kind of jamming itself up in front of something. But it might just be that the difference between the 2-up and the 3-up is so much that it's just not worth it.
Yeah.
Phantom Hosts very much feel like a unit that kind of took some collateral damage from the 2+ save change.
Yeah, but man, they were so good before. 2+ Aegis is crazy. Like 2+ Aegis should not exist in the game. That's my opinion, but
100%.
Yeah.
But now I'm not sure what role they're supposed to fill.
So the race, they lost the blood tie with the champion upgrade, but they just get the champion upgrade normally.
Yep. So what I was going to say is I hope you're ready for knowing who to call, because next year is going to be the year of the ghost. Because one of the biggest draws for Wraiths and one of the biggest draws for Nosferatu was getting the Wraith champion. I wrote VC lists with Nosferatu specifically to pick up the Wraith champion, and now you don't have to. He has access to 3 great spells, and he gets to pick 2 of them for 275 points. And he's got a 3-up Aegis. He's got a 3-up Aegis.
Ridiculous.
Yep. And
same with
you
the
might
Spectral
start
Hunters.
seeing Spectral Hunters.
Yeah.
People didn't like Spectral Hunters, and now being 275 points, move 816, light troops, ghost step, terror, 6 wound mage seems pretty good.
It does seem pretty good. And you can have them just with any sort of vampire general you want. Yeah.
Yep. Just vibing, casting spells.
Vampire Knights.
Also AP10. Vampire Knights took a big ol' hit. For 2 reasons. So them losing blood ties is actually a big deal because they lost access to plate armor.
Yep, so they're only a 2-up.
They're only ever a 2-up. And also, their horse has degraded quite a bit.
It's decayed a little bit.
Yeah, they used to be strength 4 AP1 and weapon skill 3, I think. And now it's just a normal undead steed.
How many points did it go down, though?
They went up.
Wow. I mean,
they went up 15 points to the base unit, but they did pick up Devastating Charge +1 attack just universally.
Yeah, I knew the Vampire Knights
losing the 1-up is...
The Vampire Knights
bad.
were always good. They were always really good. I think this brings them in line. I think this is not... This brings them back down to earth, in my opinion.
Yeah, 1-ups are inherently not healthy for the game.
Yeah.
And being able to take 2 units of 6 that just used to pretty much delete things that were put in front of them and not really suffer consequences for it.
Yeah.
Was pretty bad. But it's kind of sad to see them lose plate armor. But you got to sacrifice a few things to get Wraith champions.
Jesus Christ. Shrieking Horror, for each gigantic character in your army, the maximum is reduced by 1. Okay, that makes sense.
Yep. So they saw my plan to have a zombie dragon, a Shrieking Horror out of characters, and a Shrieking Horror out of Swift Death, and they cut me off at the pass.
They saw you coming. So that's the book. I'm saying this is an upgrade. This is a big boost for the VC. What do you say?
I would actually say, I think out of all 3 waves, this is the biggest change. Mechanically losing the crumble is huge.
Yeah, agreed.
Kind of getting the bloodlines back, like having a reason to play bloodlines again, is huge. And picking up like the Wraith casters and a few other things is just huge. So I think this is, if you've been holding off trying to learn how to play vampires, this is the time to kind of jump in with both feet. Especially with what they did to the UD book.
Yeah, yeah.
They didn't nerf our magic phase. Our magic phase got stronger.
Man, I think. Oh, looking back at all of this balance patch update, man, UD just got.
Yeah, UD and Empire feel like the real losers. Warriors and Vampires feel like the real winners.
Yeah, I agree.
Everyone else is kind of in the middle.
Yeah. I think we're gonna call it quits there. Henry, as always, a pleasure.
Yeah.
Now it's that wonderful time of year where everyone's doing some list crafting, everyone's thinking about new lists, everyone's thinking about the changes, where the meta is gonna settle out.
All I'll say on that is I hope you like Pyromancy, because
yeah.
Next season is the season of the Arsonist.
I am gonna make no predictions about the meta this year, except that we're still not gonna see any UD lists.
Yep, there's no real incentive again.
And I just bought a UD model at the NATC from Alex.
Hey.
And I loved it so much. I'm like, I might do a UD army, and I see this, I'm like, ah, gosh, I can't.
If you squint, it kind of looks like a Wraith champion.
All right, I gotta call it quits. I got places to go, but Henry, thank you for joining us. Thank you all for watching. If you're still watching, please like and subscribe as always. And we'll see you next time. We'll see you in a year. And Henry, yeah. I think you're a mainstay for the balance patch updates in this channel. So you'll see Henry around on this channel.
Also, I think I have like 3 battle reports coming up with you guys.
True. That's a good point. That's a very good point. But anyway, see you next time.